So let's have a look at the present simple. Present simple is one of the 5 tenses that I would recommend you learn for the IGCSE. Present tense, let me just give you an example of a sentence that is in the present tense in French. This would be, for example, je parle français. So that is an example of what the present simple looks like in French. Our verb here has been conjugated into le présent simple, into this tense. When do you use this tense? We use this tense to talk about things like habits. So every morning I wake up at 7 o'clock. Every day after school I play football. Or facts. So I like football. I play badminton. I watch Netflix every night. Okay, all of these things are situations in which you would use the present tense. You also use the present simple, le présent simple in French, to talk about things that are happening right now at this moment. So I'm speaking to you. Okay, that's happening right now in the present. Okay, I'm reading a book. Okay, all of these things are kind of happening now. So that's when you use it. Now, in English, it's slightly different. Let's take that first sentence that we just looked at. Je parle français, which in English can be translated 2 different ways. The first way is I speak French. I speak French. The second way is I'm speaking French. So in English, there's a difference here between number 1 and number 2 and when you use each of them. In French, there's only one way. Okay, so je parle français could mean, depending on the context, it could mean this first option, I speak French, or it could mean I'm speaking French. Now, what is the difference here on the English side? Well, this top sentence here, I speak French, is using the tense, the present simple we call in English the present simple. And this tense down here, the second sentence, is using what we call the present continuous, which is to talk about things that are happening right now at this moment. They all end in ing. Okay, that's how we know something is in the continuous. So I speak French is like a fact, right? Can you speak French? Yeah, I can speak French. It's a fact. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing it right now, but you're capable of doing it. So it's a fact. And the second one, I'm speaking French, means, well, like literally at this moment, I'm speaking French. So both of these ideas are translated the same way in French. Je parle français. So in that sense, le présent simple in French is slightly easier because there's only one form to remember to express 2 different ideas in English. Now, let's look at the structure. So everything in conjugation in French starts with an infinitive, okay? So again, that is the form of the verb that hasn't been changed, it hasn't been modified, it hasn't been conjugated. It's the form that you would find in the dictionary. Now, in French, there are 3 different groups of verbs, and all infinitives end either with ER, IR, or RE. Okay, so we distinguish between 3 types of verbs in French, the ER verbs, the IR verbs, and the RE verbs. So just an example of each. Parler. Okay, so that is the infinitive, right? To talk or to speak in English. IR, for example, finir. Okay, so that ends with IR. And then another verb here, for example, vendre, which means to sell. Okay, so these are 3 different infinitives that are part of these groups. Now, each group has a different set of rules and a different set of endings that you have to know. Now, this will look like a lot of information, but I'm going to explain a sort of a shortcut that you can use. So, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that looks like a lot of information, and it is, but let's go into it. Let's break it down a little bit. So, how do you take something like parler, which is the infinitive, and how do you conjugate that into the present tense? In fact, I should have added here this, il, elle, on. nous, vous, and il, elle. Okay, so these are the endings that correspond to these subjects. Okay, I've just added that in, it's probably easier. So what do? Well, we take our infinitive, and it's the same formula for any group of verb. Let's just try parler. So we start with parler, which is our infinitive, and it's exactly the same formula. What you do is you remove the last two letters. Okay, so the name of the group, basically. So I'm going to remove the E and the R. Parler. And to that, now this is now called the stem, right? Because we've removed the last two letters. It's no longer an infinitive, it's called the stem. And then to that, we just add any combination of letters here, depending, of course, on what subject we've chosen. So for example, if we wanted to say I speak or I am speaking, because remember it can be translated both ways in English, we take the stem, we add an E. So je parle means I speak or I am speaking, right? Let's try that again with a different subject. So parle, we've removed the ER from the infinitive, leaves us with the stem. Let's say we want to say they speak or they are speaking. Well, instead of adding E, we just go down here and we add E-N-T, this one here. Okay, so they speak, il or elle parle. The ENT is kind of silent, we don't really say that, but it is written. That's it. It's exactly the same for every other group. So let's try, for example, the second one, finir. So we start with our infinitive, finir. We remove the last two letters, so the I and the R, they go. We're left with our stem, and then we just choose any ending here. So we want to say, we are finishing our homework. So we want this nous form here, this ending, I-S-S-O-N-S, finissons, nous finissons. We are finishing or we finish. Okay, that's what that is. One more example. I'm sure you've got the hang of this already, but we just keep the stem. Let's in fact do vendre, so we get one of each. Vendre, so we have our infinitive. We remove the last two letters, gives us the stem, and then we are going to add any ending. Let's say we want this, so vous, so you as a group, right? Like it's like the American y'all, right? Basically, that's the most accurate thing. IZ, vous vendez, you, y'all, sell or are selling. Okay, so that's it. This here is not a mistake. It just means you don't add any ending. So for example, if you want to say he, she, or on, so another form of we, sell, same thing. You take the stem, and this is a lot easier. Il or elle or on vend, and that's it, right? Because you don't add anything here. That's the ending. Okay, so it looks like a lot of information, and it is. You don't need to focus on every verb, of course, and these letter combinations do not work, of course, with every single verb, and because there are exceptions, of course. So, for example, the verb aller is a classic irregular verb because it doesn't follow that rules. That's what that means, irregular. Because if we were to apply the rules with aller, well, what would we do? We remove the E and the R, and let's say we add the ONS here. That actually works. So let's go here. The E, we add the E for je, al doesn't work. Je al, that doesn't exist in French. Okay, it's je vais. Okay, I go, I am going. Right, so look, that is completely different to this, right? So some verbs are irregular. I'd recommend you focus on some verbs, useful verbs. There are some videos on my channel that you can go and find shortcuts where I've taken 10 verbs that I think would be very useful, some of which are irregular. So you just learn that list of 10 so that you don't need to memorize all of these different rules. But if you're interested, that is how you take any infinitive, regular infinitive, and you transform it into the present tense. So that is the present tense. That's everything you need to know.